Welcome guys to Sharpen Your Entrepreneurial Edge. I'm excited to bring this series of who I see as leaders and entrepreneurs that are taking charge in our community. I've seen them sustain and build and grow, not just during COVID, but that's the reason that they're here and that I've invited them on to this interview with me, because I want to know, like, what is it that has given them that grit? What is it that is about their spirit that has, I guess, helped them to not only survive, but to thrive as an entrepreneur and in this world? I truly believe that it takes a special spirit to survive entrepreneurship, if you can say that. So Jerome and I met. He was actually my professor for my visual communications degree, and taught me so much, taught all of us so much. He introduced us to, not just graphic design and the elements to what is a great design, but also what networking is about, what getting involved in the community is about, that it's not just a job. You're not just here to get a paycheck. You're not just here to, put your services out into the world. We're here to serve. And I love this man's heart. So I definitely wanted to bring him on, so that you can hear, what his passion and his purpose is, and kind of his journey that he's taken. I love that you tell the story, Jerome, of you've been around since like cut and paste in the design industry. So tell me just a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Well, Jen, let me just say this. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate that. And thank you for allowing me to be one of your first guest on this journey. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And hopefully I'll make you proud.
Absolutely.
Now, yes, you did talk about something that I do want to reflect on, and that's passion and purpose. So with your permission, and I'm a storyteller. All right. So I love to tell stories. So with your permission, I'd like to talk about passion first. And then time permitting, we could go into purpose, and hopefully we can open it up to some Q&A if anybody has any questions. But let's start with passion. For as a youth, I've always loved to draw. That was something that was, people who knew me knew that that was something that I really had a desire and a passion for. But unfortunately, when I graduated from high school, I actually had no plan. I had no idea what I wanted to do or what was going to happen. It was a very trying time back then. We had a very unpopular war waging, and the draft was in effect. And that cloud kind of hung over your head. If you were, 16, 17 years old, you just didn't know what was going to happen. So it just so happened that the year that I graduated, June of 1973, it was that month that the draft ended. And the following month, I turned 18. So there was there's some jubilation. Everybody was excited. Yay, we don't have to go to war. We don't have to, sign up. But the reality set in. It's like, oh, wait a minute. What am I going to do with my life? So basically, there was no money for college. And my dad was an electrical engineer, and there was a plan. There was a decision, and there was a plan for me. That wasn't my plan. It was a plan that I was going to work with my father. I was going to be a journeyman. I was going to come up the ranks, be a draftsman, and then they would send me to a technical school, and I would learn to be an engineer, and yada, yada, yada. All right, so that started almost immediately because, you know, at home, you know, when mom got up, everybody that has breath in the house got to get up and do something. So I started working with my father immediately, and it was turning out pretty good. I mean, I was making a decent amount of money for an 18-year-old, and it was working out pretty well. But about 7 months later, I got a call from my guidance counselor, and she asked me. She said, you know, she just wanted to find out because they were keeping tabs of those who did not go to college just to make sure, you know, they're okay. So she contacted me and she asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I was doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, not a heck of a whole lot, but she could tell, she could sense that, you know, yeah, I'm checking off the checkpoints, the check marks, but she could tell that I wasn't really happy. So she said to me, she said, now, because remember, everybody knew that I had this creative side. So she said to me, she said, did you ever consider, you know, a career in the arts? And now you got to understand, my mother was in banking. My father's an engineer. And I'm like,
were they like, here's
how
your
does that work?
and here's your loafers, kind of?
Right. Exactly. How does that work? But she said to me, she said, no. She said, listen. She said, look all around you. There is art all around you, from your cereal boxes to your books, to your newspapers, to signage. And I never saw it that way. I was like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. So she said to me, she said, there's a school in New York. At the time, it was a 2-year college at that time called Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT. And she said, did you ever consider, you might want to consider finding out how you can enroll and maybe chart a course in creative, because it was more than just fashion. It was advertising. It was a lot of other things.
Right.
And when she said that, it was amazing. Like, she had no idea where I worked, but the company that I worked for was doing the build out on the electrical side for Fashion Institute. So I was on that campus almost every single day. Now, she didn't know that, but I was there. And at the time, it was, oh my goodness. So at the time, Fashion Institute it just had one building. Now it's got like, I think 6 or 7, but it was all part of that build out. So one day when I was at the site, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the front office and just find out what does it take to be, to enroll. So I spoke with one of the secretaries. They said, well, you need to fill out the application. And then she said, but you have to submit a portfolio. I said, no problem. I took the application, and when I left, I was like, what is a portfolio? I mean, I had no idea.
I didn't ask. So, like, this just is a testament to your spirit. Like, okay, fine, whatever I've got to do, I'll figure it out. Like, don't know what a portfolio is.
You tell me I need to do this, and I'm like, okay. So when I left, I went to the local art store. I bought one of those large manila folders that had the flap and the string and a little plastic handle, whatever. And then I bought a large sketch pad, and some poster board. And within about a week and a half, I did about 20 sketches. All right, all different kinds of things, just 20 sketches. And then I taped them to the poster board, put it in that envelope because I don't want it to flop around in the envelope. And I brought it down there with my application about a week and a half later after we had that conversation. And she accepted, she took the application. She said, okay, now just put your artwork over with all the others. And then when I looked, I saw rows and rows of these pretty black leather bags with zippers and retractable handles. And some of them had monograms on there. And I was thinking to myself, oh, that's a portfolio. So mine stood out by default.
Yes.
Right? So I just, at that point, I went and I asked them, I said, well, I have a question. How come these look, they look very professional? And she began to explain to me that many of the students who went to Fashion Institute, they actually were graduates of the Fashion High School. So what that meant is Fashion Institute was on 27th Street and 7th Avenue. The high school was 3 blocks south on 24th Street and 7th Avenue. So basically, the students who graduated from the high school, they just migrated 3 blocks up to go to, so they were already prepped. They were already prepped. And you got to remember this, 7th Avenue is also called Fashion Avenue. So in other words, that whole area was, you know, if you lived there, if you worked there, if you went to school there, you knew the high school and the college. So when I got that little piece of information, I said, oh, my goose is cooked, you know, because, you know, basically these folks, they know what to expect. I had no idea. So anyway, but listen, I did what I was asked to do. I did it. And I went on about my life. 2.5 weeks later, I got a letter from Fashion Institute. And not only was I accepted, but they offered me a full scholarship and a grant to go to school. And I was like, guess who's going to college? You know? So so basically, you know, that started my 4.5 decade journey, all right, to really living the dream. Because now I was able to do and make money doing the thing that I really enjoyed. Now you might say, well, how did this whole thing tie into passion, whatever? Here's the deal. If that guidance counselor did not call me 7 months after I graduated from high school and just to inquire how I was doing, I don't know where I would be. And when you think about it, you know, my dad was very excited about having me come on board because, see, that was his passion. He ate, drank, slept electricity, all right? That wasn't for the kid. But my thinking was, well, you know what? You know, father, son, I will, you know, do what, but that was his passion. My passion was something completely different. And that's why one of the things that when I say passion and purpose, I think it's so important that you somewhere along the line, you try to figure out what that thing is that you are passionate about, and then don't be discouraged. Don't let all the naysayers, because again, I didn't have anybody around me that really, had that mindset, except for my good buddy who is in this room.
That's awesome.
He too had a similar path. But anyway, that talks to passion. And what I'll do right now is I'll stop right here and I'll let Miss Jen here tell us what our next move is. And if Jen, you feel so inclined, I would love to talk about purpose, but I'll park it here.
Well, so let's I want to go back into what you said. And I was listening to something this morning, talking about passion and purpose and mindset. I mean, this really is all about mindset. And I love the fact that, one, you weren't discouraged when you saw all the professional portfolios. I mean, how intimidating is that to just, oh my gosh, that was a great dream, but obviously it's not for me. And then the fact that you were already there and working on the campus. I mean, you guys, when our heart and your soul, it knows where you're supposed to be. It is truly our job to get quiet and to listen. And that's what even this morning was saying, and listening is man, we are so busy running around. Here you are in high school worried about the war. I mean, that's probably as far as you were seeing your graduation. You're like, okay, well, we've got this. I really don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. But, what is my plan? And so many people don't. And even in life, I'm finding that, COVID has has really kind of turned the tables on everything. It's taken us all inwards, and we've had to, kind of reevaluate. And listen, we've had to get quiet. So I find that a lot of people really have and are in the process of uncovering what their purpose is. So that's kind of really the sharpen your entrepreneurial edge aspect of this, because what did you do? Here you are. So, okay, you're in college. Now what? I'm like, obviously your mom worked for a bank, so she didn't have her own business. Your dad was a journeyman. So, I mean, he had his plan for him. So kind of fast forward, okay, you've got college, you're amazing. Now you've graduated. Now what?
So let's talk about purpose. All right, if I can.
Yeah, because now what? Yeah, so now you've uncovered your passion and your purpose, and
so you figure 4.5 decades. I mean, I was able to, when I came into the industry, again, it was a continuous growth process. I met certain people. I was able to advance. I was able to. I mean, I worked for some of the companies I worked for. Unfortunately, a lot of them not around anymore, but Lord & Taylor, Bloomingdale's,
hear that,
and
Mom?
of course, Columbia House. Right. Yeah, Columbia House, which is a division of Sony Entertainment, and then it was a small retail outfit down here in Texas that actually brought me down here. I was recruited by, I'll throw it out there, some of you know it, Foley's. Foley's basically Foley's. They recruited me. They brought me down here.
Apparently, that was my first word.
I didn't. Well, yeah, okay, but listen, Foley's. So I didn't even. Texas was not part of the plan. It was not part of the plan. But it just so happens that when I interviewed the creative director at Foley's at the time, was also a Fashion Institute alum. So when we met for the interview, we spent maybe about 15 minutes talking about the job, but the rest of the time we talked about all the people that we knew, all right? Because being that she also, this is crazy, she dated, when I was working at Lord & Taylor, she dated the production manager over there. So we all knew the same people. So that transition, so it was almost like coming here to Texas was, supposed to happen. So when I got here to Texas, I worked for Foley's for only 2 years, all right? But what happened was I was actually doing a lot of freelance work. I was meeting a lot of people in ministry. And a lot of them needed the services that I had to offer. So I was doing a lot of work with different ministries, graphic design work. And then I was also meeting a lot of people on the backside, the production side. In particular, of course,
let me just jump in here that this is all stuff because you are following your heart. Like these opportunities, one, they're there for you because you're following your passion and you're living in your purpose. Two, you're stepping out. Just like with that portfolio, you didn't know what it was, but you don't care. Like we talked about this, I don't know what it's going to look like or what it's going to happen, but I'll figure it out on the way down. And I definitely want to hone in on that you're getting all of these opportunities and all of these doors are opening because you're not afraid to take them. You're not afraid to walk through those doors. You're not afraid to establish that relationship and build a friendship. So that is so important. And that is definitely one of the things that you instilled in me early in my visual communications career.
Well, and I'm telling you something. Now it's funny because if I go look, just let me go a little further because this all ties in. Because when I started to, again, I needed to know more about the back end. And again, Jennifer, you know about this. One of the companies that I've been working with since I've been here, almost 20 some odd years, was Bayside Printing. And I work with them uh, to a point where I got to know the owners. I got to know the people who worked behind the scenes. I got to know the sales reps. And the thing is, we were almost like a family. So much so that in 2007, when a small community college here in Texas, at the time it was known as North Harris, one of the CSRs was on the board at North Harris, which became Lone Star. It was on the board, and they were having a job fair, and they asked Bayside to be one of the industries represented, at the fair. So like 4 different entities that were there. All right, and the CSR there, he asked me. He said, printing is kind of boring. He said, would you mind coming with me and talking to the students, getting them excited about what happens on the front end, aside from what goes on the back end. So I said, sure, I'll help out. So when I got there, I met the department chair, I met the dean, I met all the wiggity wigs. But what we noticed, I didn't really notice this at first. I didn't notice it, but a lot of the students were gathered around our table. But in hindsight, I remember that I was engaging these students in such a way where I was getting them excited about, visual communications. I was getting them excited because that was my passion, and that started to spill over, when I was talking with these students. So all that is to say that after the event was over, they asked me for my business card. I gave them my business card. And again, I was helping out a friend.
Yeah.
And this was early on. This was like in January of 2007. I got a call in March from the visual communications chair, asking me if I wanted to step up as a judge in their annual spring jury show. And I said, sure, I'll do that. So I did it. I brought my wife and my son at the time. He was in high school. And, I did that, had a great time, thanked them for that opportunity. Fast forward, December of 2007. And this was between Christmas and New Year's. I get a call again from the chair, and she asks me, she says, would you consider teaching? And I said, teaching what? Because again, that was not part of the plan, whatever that plan was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even like she asked me. She pretty much wanted me to teach. So I said, sure. And I said, well, okay, I'm thinking it's for September, for the fall semester. She's like, no, that's for the spring semester of 2008. In other words, in the next couple of weeks. and I was like, well, I never did this before. So all that to say, what we ended up doing was she gave me a class. It was a 4-hour class on Saturdays. And then what I did was, nobody told me to do this, but this is what I did. I found out who was teaching that class during the week. And they taught on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So I rearranged my schedule so that I could be there on a Tuesday at 2:00, sit down, take notes, come back again Thursday, 2:00, take notes. And then I could regurgitate all that on a Saturday. And what I realized was that I had so much that I had to, outside of what I was teaching, but there was so much aside that I could also feed, that I would share with these students, that at the end of the semester, I was so excited. And all I did was I went to her and I said, I just wanted to thank you very much for this opportunity. It was great. I had a blast. And she said this to me. She said, oh, don't worry about it. You'll get better in time. And I scratched my head. I said, wait, you do what? And as it turns out, that started a 12-year tenure teaching at Lone Star, teaching almost every class in the graphic design track, teaching days, teaching nights, teaching weekends, teaching online, and now recently retired. All right. But purpose says to me that everything that was deposited in me for the previous, 3.5 or 4 decades, now it's time to give back. It's time to share. It's time to not just collect a paycheck. It was about giving back and helping the next generation of future talent grow and prosper. And that was at the end of the day, when I retired, I was so grateful for this opportunity because now I was able to realize purpose. My purpose has been to, at this point in time in my life, to make contributions. I've been involved in placing students, in employment. As a matter of fact, I think, Jen, I actually gave you a little nudge.
And that's another thing that, you're my first guest, but it's, on so many levels, you really gave and taught us foundations to build a business, not just what graphic design is about and the key elements, to make that work, but you took us to networking events, you introduced us. You introduced us to people. And I think this says so much about your passion as a teacher. Probably the only people that I talk to from Lone Star are you, and then Kevin Wright, Sandy Coleman, and Carlos. Believe it or not, we were all in your class. And we're all successful and we're all doing our own thing. But you just instilled in us that you don't just sit back and it doesn't just come to you. You're definitely a testament to that.
And that's the kind of thing where I get excited about that. And even I got excited about this, what we're doing right now. I know this is it's a work in progress, all right? But I think that what you're trying, you are now realizing your purpose. And I think that it's a great thing. And listen, however way I can help you, trust me, I will, because it's in me. It's in me to try to do whatever I can to help out the next generation. So to conclude, passion plus purpose yields success, I believe.
Yeah, most definitely, for sure. So let's talk about that passion and how important it is when times are tough. So I'm sure as a graphic designer and freelance, it's a beautiful story, but I know it wasn't always easy. There's been family in there and kids and building a business, teaching, growing, all of that. So kind of tell me, I guess, what made you decide that you wanted to be a business owner? And then tell me really some of your struggles there getting started.
Okay. That very good, very good. Now the struggles are they're pretty straightforward. When it's good, it's great. And when it's dry, it's terrible, right? But here's the thing. As far as being in business for myself is concerned, the reason why I felt that was important is because, let's just say, for example, you check off all the boxes. You do everything that you're supposed to do. You work your way up the ranks in the company, and you're the whatever, middle management or whatever it is. And then the company folds, all right? And when the company folds, all right, you're already at a level where you're making X amount of dollars, all right? And yeah, you probably are skilled, but the likelihood of your being able to kind of flow into another situation at that same level where a company can say, hey, you know what, I can hire 2 of y'all, all right, for what you've been making. I guess what I'm saying is, I didn't want my future to be dependent on somebody else. That's to say, and there's nothing wrong with it, because don't get me wrong, not everybody is going to be, you know, a business owner. So let's be clear, all right? Because if everybody was a business owner, nothing would get done, you know. So in other words, you know, but if you're in a place in your life where you are prepared to accept the risk, because it is a risk, all right, and be able to say, okay, I'm going to move forward, not blindly. You have to have a plan. There has to be something that will, you know, guide you through this process. But you have to say, it is a risk, and you put it on the scale, and you say, okay, if you remember, I don't know if I zero in on this, I gave you the names of some companies: Lord and Taylor, gone; Columbia House, gone; Foley's, gone. If I could tell you right now, I have people that are my closest friends, and we're all close in age, all right? And they now, a lot of them, praise God, they're old enough to, you know, to collect Social Security and retire. But a lot of them were disenfranchised when a lot of these entities disappeared. And a lot of them were, you know, senior level, whatever, but it doesn't make a difference, because when it's gone, it's gone. I mean, you're the art director of a record company. Guess what? Ain't nobody making records anymore. All right. So what's the point? Well, yeah, okay, all right. Woo. All right.
Yes, okay, you're safe. You're safe.
Right. But you get the point, though, right? Yeah. So I think that for me, I wanted to be able to at least because here's the deal. You don't want to be in that, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda category. You know, that is something that a lot of people, and again, I'm not throwing stones. I'm just saying that, how many times have you heard some of your peers who will say to you, like, man, if I only did this, or what if I would have done that? And then, you know, they kind of, there's a feeling of disparity that says, and not to say they're not successful, but it's like they didn't, the world was denied what their contribution could have been. And for myself, I mean, you know, as a graphic designer, I'm not talking about being a rocket scientist. Don't get me wrong, all right? But still, this was something that I had a passion for, and I said, well, you know what? I can do this for these different companies, but, you know, I could also do this for myself, and I could establish my own legacy. And when I think about that, I mean, of course, COVID, it kind of slowed down a few things, all right? But that's okay, because I still have a pretty strong client base. You know, things have been curtailed a little bit, but there was a time when I was outsourcing work to former students, all right? And not to say that I was saying, oh, you know, work for me for free. No. I would have students that, you know, that would actually, I would put them in contact with my clients. Think about that. Many people, and I learned this early on, micromanagement is not good, all right? When you micromanage people, you know, you basically put the thumb on them, and you don't allow them to really stretch out and do their own, and be able to express, you know, their own abilities and talents. But when I bring people in, I would actually introduce them to my clients, and I would get them to establish a relationship with those people for 2 reasons. Mainly to get them to feel comfortable working outside of themselves and working with other people. That was the first thing. And then the second thing is to give them an opportunity to actually stretch out and do their own thing. And so far, one of my very first students, who has been with me, you know, on this journey to a certain extent, she now has a high-powered job at Panasonic, And I'm not saying that it was because of me, but I'll say that she has had a lot of, I would say, solid experience working with clients that I allowed her to work with so that she could build her confidence level, and also stretch out on a creative side. And the interesting thing is, real quick, I just want to tell you this one story, because I have stories. She when the first assignment she did for me, one of my clients was the New York Historical Society, and they were doing a campaign on Frederick Douglass, and I was tasked to do a postcard campaign. So I brought her in. This is back in 2010 or 2011, and I brought her in, and I said, would you want to, participate? Because I would always show a variety of options. And I said, would you like to, participate and actually, put together a layout that I could submit? And she agreed she would do it. And I said to her, and I did this by design, I said, now, don't panic, don't worry, because you're going to be, if your work if it's not approved, or, you're going against the master. All right. So, don't be upset. I set the table. Now she's a sweetheart. All right. But I could tell she was like, I'm about to show you something. All right. And that was good. That was good. So guess what? Her idea was chosen over the master. All right. I had no problem with that. Because now her confidence level shot through the ceiling. All right. And that's what it takes to be able to be successful. And that's part of my mission. And I had no problem with that whatsoever. I'm not thin-skinned where I've got to, I need to take all the credit. No. She did that on her own. She got the accolades for it. And I made sure everybody who signed off on that, I made sure, like, I put down there where we had the credits, because they did allow me to do that. I said, design her name for my company. So it was her name I made sure she had that recognition. Yeah. Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is about, lifting up others. And interesting that you say that in your teaching style, that you do. I'm like, you put us out there. You made us build our confidence through fear, I guess. I'm like, it's nerve-wracking. And especially, I'm sure it's like this with anything. I'm like, this interview series, I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 days ago, I was a nervous wreck and nauseous. But you work through it, you fight through it, and you just get on the other side. And there's no magic potion for that.
You got to throw folk into the deep water. Say, here it is. Boop. Now, so once you do that, you have an option. You will either sink or swim. All right. So now, if you still want to be part of God's green earth, you're gonna swim. Yeah. And and you're right, because I used to throw you guys. Because I remember that we went to a networking event, and I made sure I contacted the folks in advance. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I contacted the folks in advance. I said, I want you to roll out the red carpet, but I told them, I said, I want you to ask them some hard questions. Yeah, I said, because I didn't want this to be, I didn't want to candy coat this to make y'all think that, oh, it's just a matter of having some wine and cheese and no. They're gonna ask you some questions. You gotta be able to come up with some answers, and they've got to be coherent. You gotta be able to say things that make sense. And that was part of what I feel my purpose was, not just to check a box. My thing was to make sure that you guys were ready to get out there and do whatever it is that you needed to do to get to wherever you needed to get.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you mentioned COVID. So, I mean, here we are. A lot of people, I'm sure, have experienced exactly what you have, with Lord & Taylor and Foley's and Columbia House. And like, there's a lot of people that either they've realized that they're done with their 9-to-5 job, that it doesn't suit their lifestyle, and they've had this calling and they've known it, but this has kind of given them the quiet time that they've needed to realize, okay, I can do this and I want to do this. So what would you say, where did you start? I mean, yeah, you graduated. Okay, but let's say, where did you start? Not necessarily working for others, but what was your ground level like? I'm starting iDesign, and this is how I am going to make this work.
Okay, good question. First, first I want to backtrack to COVID real quick, right? And I am what you call the forever optimist, all right? I see where people see this as, you know, gloom and doom. I see this as opportunity, all right? So back to me. What made me feel I needed to start to do something? Okay, what I did was I had to make sure, the term that I use is count the cost. I knew I wanted to go out on my own, but I had to make sure before I did that, there were certain basic things in place. A, that I have enough money saved up to be able to, you know, cushion if in case, you know, things went south. That was number one. Number two, if I knew that my wife was not going to kill me, that was number two. I had to make sure that I was still in good standing with the missus, all right? And she was on board with this, all right? And then well, actually that could be number 2 and 3. And then number 4 was that, all right, money's in place, I have the support, and then it's like, all right, where am I gonna find these contacts? That's networking. So now, what I realized, you know, I've heard it once said, if you're a gig worker, you're in business on your own, if you're not networking, you're not working. And the interesting thing is, there are so many different opportunities out there, from free to, you know, some not so free, and then, or, you know, once a week, once a day. I mean, there's so many up in the evenings that will give you, and what is it all about? It's about meeting people with the same mindset. In other words, it's not just going to a function where folks don't, you know, just a social. When you go to a networking meeting, people are going there for a reason, all right? They're going there, yes, there is a social component, but they're going there to either meet other people that can help them or find out who's doing what, so that, you know, they can actually contract them, you know, contract their services. Because check this out, and this is real. And you know, well, I don't know if you remember this, but this is, a lot of the students, they had this thing that they called Duraniisms, all right? So one of my Duraniisms, all right, was and is, people like to do business with people that they like, all right? And you can't get that by playing with the little pocket screen, all right? That has its place. And, you know, I'm talking about the little phones and the gadgets and what have you. That has its place. But you need to go into an environment, talk to folk, get people to know you, get people to like you, shake a few hands. We can't do that right now, but shake a few hands, all right? And then establish a relationship. One of the things I used to say in the classroom, I look at the women first, because, you know, typically hair is something that's very important. So I would say, okay, show of hands. How many people get their hair done? And, you know, all the girls put their hands up. Okay. I said, how many girls go into a shop, just you know, walk in and sit down in a chair and get their hair done? Nobody's hand went up. I said, okay, so how do you do this? Well, they have a person that they go to. I said, well, let me ask you something. If that person left that shop and went somewhere else, would you still go to that shop? And the consensus of the majority was they would follow whoever that is to wherever they went to get their hair done. I said, think about that. I said, even if it's going into another zip code, you would go to another location and I would say, why is that? Because if you think about it, you know, you know, hairstylists or whatever, everybody has their, but it's a relationship. You have a relationship with these people and you don't want to lose that. I said, it's the same thing in business. It's the exact same. When people have a relationship, when you establish a relationship with people, they don't want, it's easy. It's a no-brainer. They don't want to lose that relationship. So yeah, I had to make sure that I network, I make it. And to tell you the truth, many of the people that I met, one of the networking functions, and I'm gonna give them a shout out. I don't know if anybody's here who's part of that, was WOMTech. All right. Now, WOMTech, that for those of you who don't know, that's
there's only a few good men that are allowed.
I know. Now listen, when I first found out about it, it's a women's networking group. When I first found out about it, all right, I'll never forget, the person who invited me, I walked into the restaurant and I saw all these women. And I wanted to slink back out because I was like, no, I don't think I can do this, you know. And then as I was trying to go out the door, here she comes. So I said, oh, okay, I'm in. So I sat down, we are part of the meeting. Most of the relationships that I made was in that group. Why is that? Women are decision makers. I was like, wow. But it blew me away because I almost missed that opportunity because I had this knucklehead kind of caveman mentality. Like, oh, they just a whole bunch of soccer moms. No, these are folks, these are movers and shakers. And then when I had to rethink this, I said, I'm not part of the group anymore, but I'm saying that don't limit yourself, because of, whatever the labels are. No. Networking is networking. Meeting folk, establishing a relationship, and then building on that is so very, very important.
Well, and even to expound on that, networking and relationships are so important. You and I'm like 2013. I want to say 2012, 2013 is when I graduated from your class. And here we are. You've sent me clients and we've kept in touch. You're one of those people that are it's a foundation, you're like a pillar in my people, in my community, because it's relationships. And you and I have we've established a friendship over the years, and it's evolved. And I want to see you succeed. And I think that is really where that relationship aspect comes into play and becomes so important. These aren't people, let's say this too, these aren't people when you're walking into the networking room that you're going in and just passing out cards. You're not like, hey, here I am, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do, blah, blah. You're in there to make real human connection. That is really what it is all about. You kind of have to learn that. You've got to find your niche and your voice within your passion. And that takes time, I do believe. It's not like you probably didn't come straight out of the cave.
It does take time. That's why when people go to these networking functions and they come in with a pillage mentality, it's like, I want to collect as many cards as I can, just kind of like, I say, I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm still not grown up yet. They just want to rape folk, all right? No. You've got to come in there and you've got to, again, establish. Think about it. Even if you were, let's say, for example, I'm just going to bring it home, all right? Let's say, for example, if you were dating, all right? You're not going to say, you meet somebody, oh, let's get married. No, it doesn't work that way. Oh, it should. I'll just put it that way, all right? But you want to be able to, whether you're a man or a woman, in a situation where you're going to build on something that's supposed to last a lifetime, you want to be able to come in and get to know the person, get to know their needs, their likes, whatever it is, so that as the relationship evolves, all right, it's going to become more than just superficial. It'll be something that'll be consequential. I'll put it that way. So yeah, when you go into these situations, you don't go in there with a pillage mentality. Like, I'm just going to hi, my name is. Who cares? I mean, come on, that it's so pretentious. That's just crazy. But you go in with the mindset that, you know what, and actually you should go in with a mindset like, how can I help you? In other words, not what I can get at, how can I help your business prosper? What can I do to help you? And I think if you go in with that mentality, I think I think, and I know that's something that a lot of people are like, are you crazy? What is that? What are you doing? No. Give, I think, as a matter of fact, I think it's a BNI, Giver's Game. And of course, in another book, Give and it shall be given. All right? Give. It's so very important. Think about others beside yourself. And this could be one of those miracle things like, well, exactly, how does that work? No, it does work. It does work. When you have a gift mentality, all right, it'll come back to you. The same way you measure it out is the same way it's going to come back to you. And you have to believe that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how you brought up marriage in that. So, because it is, I mean, it's a service aspect, and you go into it not what's in it for me. But I think that's our mentality nowadays so much, and I think we're kind of unique in this aspect in our industry. Marketing is we're trying to come up with those slogans that we can nail your emotions, but at the same time, we want those emotions. We want to build a relationship. We want to take you on a journey with us. It's not just, we're not here for a one and done. And yeah, I'm talking to you today, and then so many women that I met, stepping out in faith. God really does open those doors for us when we rise up.
And that is very true. And once we renew our minds, once we rethink this thing and try to dismiss all of the junk that we've been fed for so many years, and say, you know what, I'm starting afresh. I want to come into, whether it's a business relationship, whether it's a social relationship, whatever, I want to come in with a mindset where it's not about me, it's about how I can help others. And I think if in life, if we were to approach almost everything that we do with that mindset, I think it would make a huge difference. And then also, I wanted to add one more thing. Once you do have these relationships, be a person of integrity. All right. Now, what does that mean? Okay. Here's some more Duraniisms. All right. I love these things. I said, listen.
I'm writing them down.
What you do is, if somebody calls you, I would tell people, I said, listen, 90% of what it takes to be successful has nothing to do with formal education. It really doesn't. If you come into a situation where, let's say you're providing a service, whatever that service is, all right, and somebody calls you and they say whatever they say, all right, if you commit to something, do it. If you make a phone call to somebody and the message is, please leave a message, leave the dang message. Don't just hang up. That's crazy, because if you do that now, for a guy like myself, if somebody calls me and they don't leave a message, in my mind that says, oh, whatever it is not important. So I will not, and I know I take heat behind this, but if you call me and don't leave a message, I'm not calling you back. But if somebody, even if you say, well, I didn't want to call them because I didn't have anything, I'm not finished with the project yet. I said, no, what you do is you call, you let them know that you're still working on whatever it is. You give them the warm and fuzzies so that this way they'll know that, okay, I feel good. I feel comfortable knowing that, it's being worked on, whatever. But when they call you and they don't hear from you, all right, they're going to be like, okay, what's going on? And I'm telling you something, that is something that is so basic, but I can't begin to tell you how many people, even people who have letters trailing behind their names, whether it's PH, whatever it is, all right? You call me and don't leave a message, you can take all of your whatever and go. Because that says you don't value what I do, you don't value my time. And because I feel that way, when I have to respond, when somebody contacts me, I make sure I follow up immediately, because this is something that's very, very important. And again, I try to emphasize that as much as I can. People, don't take that for granted. Don't not contact people. People like to know that that they feel that their project is the most important thing in your life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And we true, but you
Well,
want them to feel that.
and I think that
Because you think just as you and I have this conversation right now, I'm going to cut you. Just as you and I have this conversation right now, I'm watching messages that are coming through. All right, because I have this rigged up a situation where I can see what's coming through, and I know that at least there are 5 calls I need to make once I get off this line. All right,
right.
and I got to make them.
Yeah.
But again, this is what being an entrepreneur or being a business for yourself. This is what it's all about.
Well, and I think that is a great point, that part of the mindset aspect of being an entrepreneur and sharpening that edge is showing up as a leader, and not just showing up for the leader for your clients and the business that you have, prospected and agreed to do. But it's really hard to show up as a leader for those people when you're not showing up as a leader for yourself. So yeah, you talk about call those people, give them the warm and fuzzies. You know what? You're right. They don't want to hear excuses, but they want to know that, hey, I'm on it. People love doing business also with people that are honest, that there's just this confidence that comes across with, hey, I know that you're going to have this. This is what's going on. And I'm going to have it to you by such and such time. Okay, cool. Just let me know. Have that conversation, have that communication. But I think so many times we get scared and we let our mind run away about, oh my gosh, I told these people that, this was my deadline was Tuesday, and I'm really struggling with it, blah, blah, blah. And then you just kind of disappear, and you let your brain take over. You listen to all those, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I didn't do this. I know for me, when I would miss deadlines, run away, my brain, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. I can't do this. I'm not good at that. That I think really is something that everybody struggles with. Yeah, I'm
I'll tell you,
on that one for
Jen,
me.
And Jen, that's and I don't take that lightly. I don't want to belittle that, but that talks to an insecurity, and that says that what that says to me is that's where having some sort of accountability, having a mentor, somebody that you can lean on to help you through that. I think that's very, very, I don't have all the answers, but at least if somebody was to share that with me, I would say, okay, let's take a good look at that. Let's do a little deep dive and see how we can try to, change that. Because look, especially in the industry that I'm in, I'm only as good as my last assignment. All right. I need you to refer me to somebody else. I mean, I don't come right out and say that, but the thing that I do, whatever I produce for you, if somebody says to you, who did it? I would like to know that person will say, oh, so-and-so did this. You got to give this guy a call. All right. That's the way, and that's where it has to be. It can't be a situation where, oh, you know what? I was, it looks good, but oh my God, I had so many months with this person, I couldn't find them, da-da-da-da, bada bing, bada boom. You don't want any of that, all right?
No.
So that's why I'm saying you got to try to get past that And if it does require you, contacting somebody who can help you through that, that's what you need to do. Because listen, I don't advertise. I don't even know where I could be if I did. All right, and that could be a downfall. It could be, but the bottom line is, as I said to you just a few minutes ago, I got these messages streaming across the top here, and I'm still just a one-man show, and I got to get these projects done. But all of these connections were referrals. Every single one of them, they were referrals. They came from people, all right, who they got the word from somebody who said something positive about working with this individual, and boom, that new client.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I have found it to be super important for me. Do you have a morning ritual that you do? Like, do you have,
Yes,
what are your habits that keep you ready
Yes, I do.
to
Thank you very much.
go to work for yourself? Because it's not always easy. Like, go into that office that's in your home. It's kind of easy to turn the TV on or find other things.
Well, now, let's talk about that. Because let's say, for example, first of all, our house it's pretty big, all right? And now that we have, we're empty nesters, our youngins are grown, married, and gone. And they got their own kids, all right? So I've always had this office space, all right? This is always where I am, where I'm talking to you from is my office space. In this room, even though it's wired for television, there is no TV in this room, all right? Because I am one, my wife always says that I can walk through, I can pass the television set and see something on, and I'm stuck, all right? So I don't need that distraction in my office. That's number one, all right? Number two, I do have a ritual. And I'm like clockwork. I get up in the morning, I have my prayer time, all right? My day does not start without my prayer time. I have my readings, I have my confessions, I have my prayer time. Nothing gets and there are times when I'm like, see, I'm not really a reader. I don't like to read, all right? But I do this, it's a regimen that I do. I cannot start my day unless I read. And then I have my prayer time, and then I have my confession time, and then I'll start my day. I will have my cereal. I eat the same thing. I drink the same thing, right? And I watch the same thing, and it all cuts off at a certain time. And then I get myself into it. And it's, sometimes I walk away from that, I'm thinking, this has got to be the most boring life. But the thing that changes is what happens after the morning routine, because everything that happens after that is different. I may be working on a web project. I may be working on a print project. I may be working on, so my routine has to be set in stone. All right. So, and then after that, everything after that is new. All right. So yes, I do have that routine. Very, very important.
Yeah, totally agree. Having those morning rituals and stacking the habits is something that I've found definitely, one, gets me focused, and it's a promise that I don't break to myself. I'm like, I
Absolutely.
think you've heard it, get up and make your bed, because if you get up and you get out of bed and you make your bed, you know that you've at least accomplished one task for that day.
Let me tell you something. It's funny because that is part of the process. Now, first of all, nobody makes a bed like I do. I mean, I'm talking about the hospital corners and everything like that. But once that takes place, I'm done. I cannot sneak back in there, because see, making it up again is an issue, all right? So once I get that out the way, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. And I know this is really dumb. And I'll stand back and take a look at that, and I will marvel at the thing that I just did. I know it's crazy. But
No, I'm going to stop you right there because I think that that is so true. It is those little things that we find enjoyment in, that it's those little things that you can stand back and say, I did it. Like that.
that's it. And people don't understand that. People, I love it when, of course, I digress, but I love it when people are, they have well, I'm going to start a diet. And then they get they get the Peloton, and they got all of this stuff, the weights and everything else like that. And they overwhelm themselves with something that they're not going to be able, it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
I said, no, look, if you're going to start where you are, first of all, look, if you eat 10 pounds of food in the course of a day, don't expect to lose any weight.
Right.
Maybe you need to reduce that to 5 pounds of food, all right? So start with something that you can, that's manageable, something that you can do repetitiously. And I'm using weight, I'm using that as an example. But even if it's a regimen, work with something that's manageable. Don't overwhelm yourself. Say, like, especially you figure January 1 is right around the corner. Everybody is going to make these concessions. I'm going to do this and everything. And 2 weeks into it, done. I love junk food. Okay. That's a problem. Okay. But what I do is I manage that. I say to myself, I say, if I have these donuts, all right, I have to do 3 sets of 50 crunches. And I hate exercising. All right. So there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Right. So either I'm going to put the donuts down, all right, so I don't have to do the exercises, or if I'm going to eat the donuts, then I'm going to have to do this, which I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to have to do some crunches later on. So I'm just.
Donuts for breakfast. I see.
Well, no. Donuts are on the way.
Oh.
Donuts are on.
See, that's even okay. So honestly, let's go there with, I know we're talking about donuts and food, but the same thing goes with your business and getting that project done and getting that project out. I'm like, it's there, it's on the way. You know that you want it. So what are you going to do to set yourself up?
Very good. Very good. I love that. So here we go. One of the things that I do is I have, you can't see it, and I'm not going to get up and show it to you because that would be good. But I have a list. I have a list of everything that I need to. This is so elementary. And what I do is I cross off, I put it down there, and as I complete these tasks, I cross them off. So that says that, okay, even if, let's say, for example, when you're on your own, it's easy because you don't have to punch a clock. You don't have to report to anybody per se, all right? But the thing is, you got to get the work done. And see, for me, my daily assignments have got to be crossed off. I cannot stop and have my donuts if I don't have these tasks done and completed. Yeah. And see, that's where that commitment comes in that says, okay, I know what I enjoy doing, but in order to do the thing that I enjoy, I have to get this stuff done. Because I'm really not going to enjoy that other thing because I got this thing looming.
Yeah.
So I got to get this done.
Hovering.
And once I get and the wonderful thing is, the donuts that I'm about to have, all right, that could happen at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 3 o'clock. It just happens. It just has to happen before the missus gets home. That's what I'm saying. But all right, it's I'm a little tongue in cheek, but still, it's important to be able to say, okay, I have to do this before I do that, and I have to organize myself in such a way where I do this, and I can't stop until I get this thing done. But the reward is waiting for me. And then you look at it as a reward. It's something that you look forward to when you do what you need to do.
So business wise, let's go back to clients. And I go back to this because when it's hard and when I'm struggling in a project, and you mentioned mentors earlier, that really has been priceless. I mean, even just putting this interview series together, man, I've had to be talked off the ledge a couple of times, because it's scary and nobody wants to do the hard stuff. And there really is this there's an anxiety. Like our ego kicks in and is so conditioned to protect us that it would rather us curl up in the back of a closet and rock than to reach out, ask for help, and face the music and walk through it, push through it.
Human nature is one such that we are prone to take the path of least resistance. All right, that's just the way it is. All right, I happen to be a mentor to a young man who will remain nameless, but when he came to me, and I consider it an honor and a privilege, when he came to me, he was in tears. This is a grown man. He's got grown people as children. All right. He came to me with tears in his eyes saying, Jerry, I need you to mentor me. That's what he said to me. All he needed was somebody to walk with him, shoulder to shoulder, to help him out, help him navigate through, these different challenges. And it's not that this is some gift that was given to me. Sometimes it's just a matter of reaching out to somebody and say, listen, I'm drowning. Can you just help me? Can you be that sounding board? Can you maybe share a few words of wisdom or just help keep me accountable? And I think that we have a standing relationship where we meet like whenever we can. Well, he's on the road a lot, but when he's in town, we meet. And I got to share you the story. I got to share. I'm looking at my watch here. I got to share the story.
You're
right?
fine. I'm like, I'll cut you off.
Right. Let me share. Right. We'll just, right. When I no longer see my face, I know I'm done. Here's the deal. Right. So here's the deal. I wrote, some years ago, I wrote a book. I did a book. And basically what it did was it captured a period in my life where I was going through, I guess you could call it a contentious custody situation. Now, let me just preface this. I'm not saying, I'm not calling anybody's names, and I'm not placing blame on anybody. I've always said that in situations where families, where two people are at ends, it takes two to make it and two to break it. So I'm not calling out anybody as far as what happened. But what I'm talking about right now is with my son. Now I wrote this book, and one of the things, my son was a senior in high school and he was working. All right. One of the things that we did, all right, we made sure that on the weekends, all right, on the weekends, like earlier Saturday morning, we had mandatory father and son time. It was mandatory, all right? And mandatory father and son time was we would go take care of his banking, and then we would go to either Starbucks, whatever, have a cup of coffee and some whatever, and he would have to pay for it, all right? This was mandatory. Now, the reason why I'm sharing the story is the person that my mentee, the person that I mentored, all right, he read that, and every time we would get together, this blew me away. Every time we would get together, he would always buy my treat or whatever it is. And I would ask him, I said, well, what? He said, because he read the book. That was his way of saying, thank you for, So it blew me away. And I really felt, it made me feel as though something that seems so minor, all right, is making an impact in somebody's life. And that's so important. And so I guess mentoring, or when you feel as a business owner, because business owner, you're almost by yourself, and yes, you're going to go through these challenges, but that you got to be able to have somebody there that at least, you could talk to, somebody who could just not step in and solve your problem, but even just be somebody who will listen and just give you some words of encouragement to help you go through.
Well, yeah, and even knowing, I joke about this, but it's really not that funny. I mean, it is now looking back, but this voice in my head, I didn't realize that everybody had this voice in their head. Like, I really thought that, oh my gosh, like, does everybody say these awful things? Does everybody have this, in their brain? And this is forever. Like, I mean, it really wasn't until I was in my 40s that I understood that other people talk to themselves in their brain this way.
I told you about, you don't have to say when you're in your 40s. You could say like,
well, but I mean, that's how long I really thought that I really thought I was so damaged and so different that, yeah, I'm like, to have somebody there to just have conversations with and know that you're not alone is priceless.
It is. It really is. And it helps out a lot. It really does, especially when you're in business. All right. Because again, you could get caught up in all of this, oh man, I've got so much I need to do. I have so many challenges, with the whether it's you're dealing with third party vendors or whatever. It's like, oh man, how, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You need that outlet. And I don't care what anybody says. Again, I'm old school. I come from another time and space. All right. I am not going to rely on, where is that thing? Well, I don't have it. Oh, here it is. I'm not going to rely on this thing, all right, to get me through the day, all right? No. You really need to have somebody that you can contact, that you can talk to, that you can help you through these things, because that can be the difference between, success and failure, even in the small things, all right? So that's key. That's key.
Yeah, I think I heard it yesterday for entrepreneurs to keep our eye on the puzzle box picture. Because, yeah, and that makes so much sense to me, because here you are, like, you dump the puzzle pieces out. This is life. This is business. This is the vision that I have and what I want to build. But man, like, where do I start? And
let me tell you something. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna use it. But it's and it's funny you should mention, because we have our little grandbaby. She comes by the house every day. Well, because she comes by the house every now and again. And my wife bought this puzzle thing, and it's true, because I literally have to keep. It's a Peppa Pig, and I've got to keep my eye on the thing to say, okay, wait a minute, this goes here. But it's true. It's true. The whole experience, the whole business experience, the business model, you better keep your eye on the finished product, because if not, all the minutia, oh my goodness, that could overwhelm you. I like that. Good. I'm writing that down.
But it's also so true. I mean, when we do start to build a business, we have these grand plans and grandiose. I mean, I find myself even in trying to get my message out there and my message across, that it can get muddled nowadays with so much going on, that I'm like, I have my mission statement, and what I do is on my mirror, because I wake up and I need to remind myself, this is my mission. This is my puzzle box. And today I need to find the corner pieces. Today I'm going to set the foundation, and this is where I need to go. And my coach is actually coming on next. So I'm like, and she's been key. I mean, had I known now what I know, I wish that I would have reached out to somebody in 2013 when I started Spry, when I graduated from college and went out to be an entrepreneur and, change the world with beautiful design and social media. Yeah, I didn't. So it was like I got lost and I got muddled and my vision. So, and from that, my job took personal hits, my personal life took personal hits. You know, I'm like having somebody, a mentor that has been there, that has done it, but also to keep you accountable and give you guidance is absolutely priceless. And I can say that it's exponentially.
Here's the good news. Jennifer, here's the good news, all right? Because remember, I will always see the glass as half full, always, all right? So here's the good news. Whatever you went through, whatever the thing is you went through, let me tell you what that did for you, all right? It made you a better person.
Oh, yeah.
When you get trapped in the woulda, shoulda, coulda, and then you kind of sink back into, if I said to you, Jennifer, back in 2013, would you know, if I said to you, Jennifer, back in 2013, do you see yourself doing a podcast or whatever it is in 2020, reaching out to brother, you would have probably said something that sounded like this. You done lost your mind, right?
Okay,
But
hold on. Wait, you know me? I would
is,
have been like, oh, that sounds fun. Okay, cool.
right. And then go about your business, right? Hit the road, Jack. But the bottom line is everything that you've experienced, guess what? It brought you to this place. All right. And now you and I had this discussion. I don't know what the end game is for Jennifer. I don't know. But what I do know is that there is a desire to grow. There's a desire to give back, to do something where you can help out people who are starting out and maybe need to have conversations like this to help them on their journey. Yeah. So I'm all for it. I'm like, make it happen.
Yeah. So I am going to see, I'm like, there's some comments here. Let me read. I don't know. I've kind of been keeping up with them. Got some glass. Oh, well, thank you, Pat. Yes, I'm in my 40s. No.
Let me ask you something. Is that you see somebody that says Pat? Is her last name McKenna?
Yep.
Pat McKenna is not in her 40s. I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
But yeah, and okay, so let's real quick, let's wrap up on this one. But I do want to touch on it because being that you're a college, you dealt with young people and age. So I don't know, what would your advice be to people, to entrepreneurs? I kind of come across this, they don't feel that they have the life experience, or maybe people look at them that, oh, well, you're young. How can you do a better job, or how can you do this, or whatever? So what would you say on that note?
That's a very, very good question. That's a very, very good question. And that's why I try my best to work with. One of the things that I've done when I was in the classroom, and I still do it to this day, I tell my former students, either subscribe to my YouTube channel or sign on to my Facebook page, connect with me. Let's talk about this. Let's see how I can help you either get that that confidence that you need to move forward. Maybe I can connect you with some internships, all right, where you can, they may not be paid internships, or they may not pay that much, but maybe I can connect you with somebody so that you can start to get that experience that you're going to need, or I would say something like, okay, maybe you can be involved with a project that I'm working on, and then you can maybe see how you would solve a problem. Again, here's another Duraniism, all right? One of the things I tell my students, I said, you might think you're a graphic designer, but you're not. What you are is a problem solver. That is what you do. You have to think it's not about you, it's about your client. Your client likes it, you love it. So once you understand your mission, all right, and you understand that it's not about all the, oh, I really love this. That doesn't mean Jack or Jill, all right? You have to make sure you understand what your client wants and you solve that problem. And that might mean doing things that you may not particularly care for. All right. In other words, you might show them something that you think is really garbage. But again, you have to know what they want, what their needs are, and you have to know how to communicate with them in a coherent way, you know. And if you're sending out text messages and emails, don't use, LOL and UR and all that kind of foolishness. You make sure you communicate using the King's English, right? So that, really, that's, in this country, we speak English, not bingo. So let's understand that. All right, I'm
Well, and it is interesting as it's evolving. This is really one of the things that I love about life and growing and learning. It's an evolutionary process. You're not done learning ever. And yeah, like you said, even the English language is evolving, which so yes, everything is a constant evolution. And I think we definitely.
But the basics still apply.
Okay. My sister-in-law, she's a grammar Nazi. So.
Seriously, because look, listen, no matter, and that again, that is something that does not require. When I say formal education, you don't need to have letters trailing behind your name to know that you don't use just letters like somebody sent something to me. And oh my goodness, I thought I was looking at code. I had no idea. This was, speak to me in a language that I can understand.
Well, so I'm gonna right there speak to you in the language that you can understand. Know your audience. So because you're right, I can send LOLs and stuff to other people, but I don't talk to you that way. I don't talk to. I talk to my kids like that. I don't talk to my business associates that way.
Right. And what I would do is I would tell young people that look at it this way. It's like being bilingual. All right. I'm not telling you to set aside your communication style. All right. But I'm saying to you, think about it this way. This is, when you communicate with a professional, you communicate professionally. All right. When you're with your homies, I don't even know if that's still a term. I have no idea. But when you're with your buds, all right, whatever, you communicate how well you communicate. But you have to be able to separate the two.
Yeah. Jerome, it has been my pleasure. This is all the Duraniisms are definitely gonna go into some posts. I'll tag you in them. Man, thank you so much for your time and your friendship, honestly, and you being a mentor in my life and so many people's lives. Like I just can't even imagine how many lives you really have touched. In this whole process.
Well, I want to say, Jen, again, thank you very much for allowing me to participate. And as I said to you before, this is something, part of my mission, I believe, and my purpose is to try to help out the next generation of future talent in whatever way I can. Because, I always say things like, okay, I'm on the other side of that mountain, okay, whether I like it or not. My dad used to say, oh, son, I have more years behind me than I have in front of me, And I'm like, yeah, whatever, Pop. Well, guess what? That's where I am. So, so anyway, and God rest his soul. I just lost my father this past year, but I just think that it's just a wonderful thing when, we can, when I can, and when given the opportunity to be able to pass the mantle. In other words, it's time to pass it on. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you get to work. It's been beautiful, and I so appreciate your time and your talents for sure, and all the wisdom that you have bestowed upon us in this last hour and a half today.
And thank you again. So listen, everybody who's there, I don't know whoever's there, listen, I'm signing out because the emails are coming, they're flooding in here, and I got to get back to work. So thank you guys.
Get back to work. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.